It was not dramatic. It was not overly stressful. In fact, there were record highs this week along the way. But when the bell was rung today and the books were closed, winning streaks were snapped on Wall Street. The Dow and the S&P 500 had their first weekly losses in 2 months, and the Nasdaq posted its first weekly loss in a month and a half. As for today, the Dow lost 39 points to finish at 23,422. Nasdaq actually eked out the slimmest of gains, and the S&P dropped too. Dom Chu tells us what happened this week and what may be next.
Stocks can go down in value, though it's been such a long time since we've seen any kind of downside move that many have forgotten that. To be fair, it wasn't like it was a massive panic-stricken sell-off in stocks. After all, the Dow did hit a record high just on Tuesday, but it's been a slower drift lower since. The Dow and the S&P 500 each broke an 8-week winning streak, and the Nasdaq snapped a 6-week string of gains. Real estate and consumer staples-related stocks were among the biggest winners. Meanwhile, financial and telecom stocks were among the biggest laggards. Traders and investors were very focused on results from big retailers like Macy's, Kohl's, and Nordstrom, as well as developments on the push for tax reform out of Washington, D.C. Some of the market's weakness was being put on disappointment over the Senate's initial stab at its own version of tax legislation. Next week, in addition to all the headlines out of Washington, investors will also be watching a handful of important earnings reports as the season winds down, including 17 S&P 500 companies, 3 of which are members of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You've got computer networking equipment maker Cisco Systems, also home improvement retailer Home Depot, and retail giant Walmart. We'll also get economic data on inflation, retail sales, and housing starts, among others. In other words, plenty of things the market could move on, but will it? For Nightly Business Report, I'm Dominic Chu.